At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Oh, good morning and thank you for joining us. Hope we meet you well and you had a great weekend. I am Yori Folari and this is This Morning on TVC. Okay, let's start off the week. We'll do a bit of traveling over to the state of Osun. I would have said Osun State, but it seems that they prefer the state of Osun as the nomenclature over there. And my guest is Chief Press Secretary Ismail Omikmedan. Good morning, sir, and thank you for coming on.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning, viewers out there.
Indeed, it's our pleasure to receive you, especially as you guys have just come out of your, second anniversary, the second anniversary of the administration of Governor Oyetola. But then, it's like a relay, and APC has returned to governance in Osun, and so we've just finished the second anniversary. Congratulations on that. Are there any?
Thank you.
How are things in the sense that has anything of impact? Well, first of all, Governor Oyetola has been part of the change of governance in the state of Osun right. over the past 10 years.
Yeah, correct.
Because he was the deputy to his predecessor.
No, he was chief of staff.
Oh, he
was chief of staff to his predecessor.
Oh, chief of staff, not yes. deputy. I beg your pardon. He was chief of staff. So
yes.
he's part of governance in that sense.
Yeah, no doubt
in
about
that sense.
Yeah.
Is it too soon to talk about achievements, or indeed have you managed to come up with some? I've been hearing things about the state of Osun being ready to, indeed pay minimum wage.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start this way. We came in about 24 months ago, but if you look at it critically, you'll notice that of the 24 months, we have really had about 12 months or less for real governance. How do I mean? The way litigations are fought in this country. We came in and spent about 8 months over the litigation. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic. That one also took about 5 months or thereabout.
That affected everybody in the country.
Then we had the NSAS. But in spite of that, I think that the administration has done creditably well. We started by organizing an investment and economic summit to let the world know that we are indeed ready for business, that we want to change the narrative of the state being a core civil servant state to something else. And to God be the glory, the economic and investment summit was held in November last year, and we have started harvesting the results of that economic summit. Chief among them, it's the fact that we realized early enough, even before the pandemic, that we needed to diversify our economy. And we are focusing on agriculture, we are focusing on culture and tourism, the mining sector, and ICT. It will interest you to know that the state, we have about 17 mining titles, but since the creation of the state, the work we have done in that sector in the last 1 year showed very clearly that the man at the ends of affairs knows what he wants and how to get them. How do I mean? By the first quarter of next year, God willing, we hope to start re-exploration of mining. And you know what that means in terms of job creation, in terms of IGR.
IGR 12 titles.
We have 17 titles.
17 and
17. We have concluded the agreement with one of them. The second one, we have reached about 75.
Okay, that's mining for what?
Good, yeah.
For gold.
For gold.
Oh, okay.
For gold. The Segilola exploration company is expected to start mining by next year, and in collaboration with the federal government, this PAGMEN Presidential Artisanal Mining Initiative, we are hoping to establish a regional good buying center in the state.
Okay. Now you were saying that the governor, this administration felt a deep need to sort of diversify away from what the reputation of civil service is the only thing going in there.
Yeah.
This reminds me that there were challenges paying salaries. And as you know, if people are not paid, there will be some form of malcontent. What's the status on that?
Thank you very much. Just last week, I was at a function where the Nigerian Union of Journalists were, marking their week, and there was an economic historian from Ile-Ife. When I think they were dissecting the topic, Oyetola's 2 years administration, rhetorics or re-governance. And I was pleasantly surprised when the man described my principal as a miracle worker. And his argument was that the man came in at a time when there was this general belief that it was not possible to pay salaries in the state. And to God be the glory, in the last 2 years, we have not only paid salaries consistently, we have also been paying pensions and gratuities, and we have not borrowed a dime in the last 2 years to take care of this.
How on earth did you manage that, considering that the direct opposite is what has been the experience of citizens in the state of Osun? Especially the not borrowing a dime bit.
Yeah, what I tell people is this. This man, if you know his antecedent very well, is a financial expert. And if you have 100 naira and I have 100 naira, if I spend my own judiciously, prudently, I'm likely to show more results than a man who spends the money extravagantly. Now we have been able to block some leakages, and we are also the governor also has control on his expenditures, and he has also set his priorities right. I want to also add that even though we are not, if you are listing the top big states, we are not among the 5 in terms of financing. But I tell you today that we are among the first 5 states that is now implementing the minimum wage. Apart from that, we took on 332 primary healthcare centers at a go to revitalize and rehabilitate them.
How many?
332, one per ward. As I speak, we have done about 300 of them, very functional. We have also done 3 general hospitals, 1 per each central district. The one in West is particularly very, very critical. Critical in the sense that we started the Ejigbo General Hospital when we didn't know that pandemic was coming. And we thank God for the foresight of Mr. Governor. Because if that general hospital had not been in place, the story of 127 returnees from Ivory Coast would probably have exposed, the inefficiency in any government. But you see, because of the foresight of Mr. Governor to invest heavily in the health sector, we had concluded that general hospital before the pandemic, broke out. And that was where we quarantined 127 Nigerians who initially claimed they were all from the state. But at the stage of profiling, we realized that there were people from Edo, Delta, Lagos, Ogun, and what have you. And you can imagine what would have happened if we didn't take custody of those 127 at the peak of this pandemic. We quarantined them, we subjected them to tests, and those who tested positive among them were taken in immediately for treatment, while we allowed the rest to rejoin, their family.
Well, that's happy news, but let me stay there for a moment, especially on the subject matter of the pandemic, especially because now, combining the fact that around the world, Nigeria seems to be very fortunate, but I'll come back to that. Around the world, everybody is waiting or hoping against a second kind of a lockdown because of surges. Now, what has been the experience, how have you been able to weather it, and the preparations, or shall we say, because I'm happy when you say you have 332, primary healthcare facilities, one in every ward, and some in one in every senatorial district. Just what has the state of Osun, how is the state of Osun going about keeping indigenous citizens, not indigenous, citizens safe?
Well, at the onset of the pandemic, we embarked on a serious education and enlightenment.
Okay.
First, by letting the residents and citizens know that, look, this thing is real, and we also educate them on how to take precautions, certain precautions.
How is that going? Because I can tell you, because I can see for myself in Lagos here, where we are resident and broadcasting from, that most people, much to the despair of medical personnel, are carrying on as if COVID-19 is almost a thing of the past. What's it like in the state of Osun?
Well, in our state, I want to say that, we pride ourselves as Omoluabi. And that is people who, we listen to simple instructions. I recall during the pandemic when we had the first lockdown, don't forget that my principal was one of the governors who insisted that to prevent this thing from spreading, we must lock down the country. Our state was not among the first set of states that were to be locked down, but our own governor took the proactive measure to insist that, look, we needed to lock down if we must avert the spread. So when we're going for the second lockdown, I recall in one of my conversations with a public analyst, he was saying that the people were going to revolt against the second lockdown. And I reminded him, I said, look, don't forget we are Omoluabi. So long as you let people understand why this thing has to be the way it is, they will comply. And what did we get?
People complied.
We had them comply. As we speak today, even in our market, places, garden, people still use, their nose masks. People wash their hands as much as possible.
I mean, that much you can say.
That much I can say. If you notice,
in public,
it
yes,
was when
you
I
are right.
In
you're very right.
I removed my nose mask.
So you're saying that, unlike places we don't need to go into right now, ordinary people understand it and are complying with NCDC regulations, especially when I say ordinary people. Just go to any market.
Just go to any market.
And you find that more people than not.
In fact, at some point, Mr. Governor had to take the campaign by himself to the markets.
Leading,
yes, by himself. He will say, you are not putting your nose. They will say, it's not meant for the bag. It's meant for,
that's interesting. So you've had a very positive experience in terms of the citizenry sort of doing what they can, behaving knowledgeably, because you spoke about taking a campaign, an education campaign to the people. Okay, and the figures in Osun, when you compare it with elsewhere, are you in a good place?
Yeah, I think we're in a good place. We're in a good place.
Okay. So there's no immediate emergency?
For now, there is none. And even if, as I speak, we have isolation centers that can take over 300, assuming there's an emergency at a go. We have in Oshogbo, we have in Ejigbo, we have in Ile-Ife. Yes, we have in Ile-Ife. So this can take, assuming we have emergency of maybe say over 100 or 200 at a go, we have facilities that can take care of them. But like my principal will always say, when we're inaugurating the intensive care unit center, intensive care unit center in Ashubiaro, the specialist hospital, when we bought, I can't remember once I remember the equipment. When the case is critical and you need to, I can't remember the name immediately now, but I'm sure when I remember.
Okay. You're talking about those respiratory aids.
Yes, and he said we don't pray it get to this stage, but we needed, to have them in place. So we also have them in place in our, ICU, center. So if we have emergency today, I think we have the capacity, to take care of it. But like we always say, we don't pray to, get to that stage.
As you said, there have been a number of challenges, and you're not alone. All over the world has been experiencing these challenges. In the 2 years that you've been on, some time has been lost to the incidents that you described. First of all, there was, COVID-19, and then following that, SARS. How heavy? I guess most people know about SARS. About COVID-19, but the SARS experience, how challenging was that in Osun?
Well, for the SARS, at this point, let me again thank God for His mercy. Don't forget that, like every other state, the SARS protest started peacefully until it was hijacked. We had the same experience in Osun. And in our own case, we had the unfortunate incident of even attempt on the life of the governor on October 17th. And God showed us His mercy, and we left the scene without firing a shot. Not even a tear gas canister was fired, And once we left the scene, the next thing we did was to review the situation. And because from day one, the governor had plans for the youths, all we needed to do was to further activate some of the process, to fast track the process. How do I mean? Before the NSAS, we already had in place what we call the youth policy. The 4 E's: youth entrepreneurship, youth engagement, youth education and empowerment. We had it in place. So what we did immediately was to ensure that the policy is unveiled, and we are unveiling the policy in another week or two. In our budget, 2021 budget that is already before the House, we set aside about 1.5 billion to engage the youths in mining, in agriculture, in ICT, and in culture and tourism, to show clearly that, look, we needed to engage them so as to not only to further revolutionize the economy, but to ensure that those who have nothing to do are taken off the street. Apart from that, we also
has there been enthusiasm for that idea?
No,
that is the engagement of...
Yeah, we had a stakeholders meeting immediately after the NSAS thing, where some of these issues were discussed thoroughly, and most of the youths were in attendance. Because what we want to do is to have them own the project. Is to have them own the project so that they can, help drive the process.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask another question, but Mr. Dedi has called in from Ikeja. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to the guests in the house.
Mr. Ismail Omikwido.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, yeah, welcome, sir. I'm a native of Osun State, so I'm always interested whenever we are talking about Osun State.
Okay.
I know that the present governor has been trying his best to move the state forward, but one area that I expected him to have done much, which I believe is still doing below par, is on agriculture. He promised when he was going to come into power that he was going to ensure that he improved so much on agriculture to the extent that we will hand a lot of foreign exchange, and it was going to improve the GDP of the state. But that is not happening to my knowledge. Okay. I have a cousin who is involved in agriculture. He actually left his trading job when he was not getting much from it, and is now fully into agriculture. His name is Muyiwa Odedi. He has been doing that now for the past 4 years or so. And it has been one tale of woe to the other. It's just presently, it's just using cutlasses and hoes. I have told him, why don't you assess the numerous opportunities that the state government has said that is available, level of the local governments or at the Ministry of Agriculture. He said he has been there several times to seek help, to see if he could get
any form
loan,
of assistance. Yeah.
if he could get to rent these modern equipment to improve his farming, but he has been able to get nothing.
Okay.
That is only the politicians that are, corner everything that's made available for themselves. That they, the farmers that are on ground, they don't get anything.
Okay.
So I don't know what government can do to help assist people like that in having serious issues,
Okay, Mr. Dede, thank you very much for calling in and for bringing up this point, which of course I'll bring to the Chief Press Secretary, Mr. Ismail Omikpedo. Politicians allegedly have cornered all the assistance that would have gone to bona fide farmers.
Well, that is not entirely correct. I say so with all sense of modesty. That is likely to be, the case is raising, is likely to be an isolated case. But you see, what we have demonstrated over the years is that once we have a complaint like this, we try to investigate and do the needful. I want to promise the caller that we'll find out if truly we have this, but because I know for sure that in agriculture we have advanced loans to farmers.
Oh, okay, because I was going to ask, so
Yeah,
what have you done for farmers?
We have advanced loans to farmers, and we are also engaged in this broilers outgrowers scheme.
Okay, that's in poultry.
In poultry, which has improved tremendously over the years. And we're also leveraging on the federal government through the CBN intervention. What is likely to be the challenge, because what we encourage them to do is that they should try as much as possible to organize themselves into groups and cooperatives.
Okay.
By that, it makes it very easy for them to assess. As
opposed to being an individual.
As opposed to an individual thing. Yeah.
But what that caller indicated, it's not unheard of, unfortunately, in our society here, where people begin to look for where is your political affiliation before you want any assistance.
No, in our own case, we try as much as possible to avoid that. But I give you an instance. During the pandemic, when we were sharing the palliatives, we were trying to interact with people, and one of them was saying that we were trying to find out how, because we use the social register largely to distribute some of the palliatives, and in the course of interacting with some of them, one of them now said that she's PDP. That was why I said, it's because you registered when they were asking people to register, the poorest of the poor. When you call, it was because you registered and your name was in the register. That is why you are benefiting. It's not necessarily because you are of this political party or that party. We don't discriminate.
Okay, you don't discriminate. Well, that's good to hear, because you want the youth to be involved, and it's not just you, even federal government, everybody is saying that the youth should come into agriculture. But let me hear it from Jide, calling in from Ejigbo in Osun State. Good morning, Jide.
Good morning, Obiori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. I want to contribute to the program.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want to appreciate the Chief Secretary to the state government.
Okay.
In the popular hello?
We can hear you still.
All right. I want, if you Dele will not Jide, please. Dele from Ejigbo.
Dele?
Yeah, Dele from Ejigbo.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We'll take Jide away and put Dele there. Can you take Jide away, please? Okay. So we're speaking with Dele from Ejigbo.
Yeah, Dele from Ejigbo, Osun State.
Yeah.
I want to appreciate the Chief Secretary the Chief Press Secretary to the Osun State Governor.
Sure.
And as well as his principal for the job well done in Osun State.
Okay.
And particularly in Ejigbo town, we want to appreciate the governor for the road he has habilitated from Ara Junction to Ejigbo town. And at the same time, we want to appreciate that they help us to complete the project so that the people in Ejigbo will be able to actually move freely. Right away now, we can actually just move within just 30 minutes to Oshogo, you know, the result is very wonderful. So we want to appreciate the governor and actually pray that God continue to bless him and give him the wherewithal to take the state to a higher ground.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for calling in, Dele. And so sorry about the mix-up with your name. We got it right ultimately. That was Dele calling in there from Ejigbo in Osun State.
Incidentally, when we had our grand finale on Friday, His Royal Highness from Ejigbo, you know, when he spoke, a lot of us in that hall were moved by, you know, his speech. And what did he say? He said that he came, that ordinarily because of his age, he probably would not have, you know, attended the function, but he had to come by himself to show appreciation to Mr. Governor for fixing the road, that very road he's talking about, because according to him, the road had been bad for years and that there was no attempt to fix it. And that when this man promised that he was going to fix it, he has indeed fulfilled, you know, his promise. And I want to also say that Ejigbo is among the towns where we'll be doing township roads anytime soon.
In case anybody's just joining us, we're talking about Ejigbo in Osun State.
Not Ejigbo in Lagos.
Not Ejigbo in Lagos, or Ejigbo in Osun State.
And one good thing about our road interventions, they were based strictly on the needs of the citizens. Because when we came in, Mr. Governor embarked on what we call a thank you tour. Because he's this type that doesn't believe that he can sit down to decide what the people want. He went to the people to tell them, to tell us what they wanted. And so, like there's one other road that was inaugurated during the course of our celebration last week. The Ataoja of Osogbo said it publicly that when they were in one political party, they didn't mention the name of the party, and so I won't also want to mention the name of the party, that their leaders were living in that area. The area is called Alekuodo. We did about 5 network of roads in that area. That their leaders were living in that area for 7.5 years, and there was no attempt to fix it, you know, the road. The road was last fixed in 1986, before even the state was created. As I speak, we have fixed, you know, the road. Now, there's Ada Igbajo Road. For those who are familiar with the Kiriji war history, you know, I told you we are developing our tourism site alongside whatever we are doing. And so we also realize the need to also fix the infrastructure, because when people don't have roads to move about freely,
it discourages.
You know, it discourages. Now, the Ada Igbajo Road is about 18 kilometers. Now, Awumalo SN, he was commissioner in that state in 1992. During one of our conversations, he told me that the road had been bad even before he became commissioner. Even before he became commissioner. As I speak, that road is being fixed. Hopefully, before the end of the year, we should be done, you know, with the road. So we are fixing these critical roads in spite of the paucity of funds.
Okay. That's infrastructure, you know, so infrastructure is going on.
It's going on.
Let me bring up something I noticed in the press. I saw a picture, school children, you know, lining the, you know, the streets because the governor was, you know, going to be passing by. And the caption was that they were thanking His Excellency for allowing them to return to their school uniforms. Now, as we know, there was a time when, you know, all of us, you know, pupils were to be, you know, were to have one uniform. What has that decision done? Because I imagine that all sorts of infrastructure were raised at the time. Have those infrastructures will now go to raise? And does this mean that the people were not really happy, you know?
Well, if you cast your mind back, when in the build-up to the election, there was a governorship debate that was hosted by Channels Television. And at that debate, Mr. Governor was put on the spot that people appear to be complaining over this single uniform thing and other policies within the education sector. What will you do if you become the governor? And the governor responded by saying that, look, if at any point the people of the state wanted some of those policies to be reviewed, that he will certainly look at them. And the thank you tour I mentioned to you earlier on, when we went on that thank you tour, top on the list of the demands of the people were the issue of the uniform, the school, the school change of school name and what have you. Then there was this citizen needs assessment that was carried out by UKDFID. It was funded by UKDFID. Most of what we had from our own thank you tour were also harvested from that report. So in spite of that, the governor now set up a committee. The government set up a committee headed by Professor Oluwaina and other educationists, including prominent Osun indigenes like General Lani Akinrade, to help us take another look at some of those issues.
Some of those policies.
They came up with their recommendations. And part of the recommendation was that we should return to the old uniforms. And if you are in Osun, you need to listen to how tailors, because you know what that will do for the local economy. That we should return to the old uniform. Now, you know that government alone cannot do most of these things in terms of funding school, what have you. Now, the old students are also at loggerheads with government that, look, by changing the school, they have lost their identity. And so, as old students, they can't identify with a name they never knew before.
So returning to the way it used to be seems to have gone down well.
Yeah, very well. Again, we have schools where...
Because
we had schools where meant for female alone, where male were also attended. So there were issues concerning their certificates. So these are some of the issues we looked at based on the recommendation of the committee, and we had to, the thing appears to sit down well with the people, and that is why you saw the picture you saw of students.
Well, I want to thank you. There's so much more to talk about in the state of Osun, but time is never a Democrat. So I want to thank you very much, Ismail, for coming on, Chief Press Secretary.
The pleasure, Ismail.
The governor of the state of Osun. Thank you very much, and I certainly wish you the best. And I imagine that Osun will go from strength to strength. Come your 3rd, 4th anniversary, it'll get better. Thank you very much for coming on our program.
The pleasure is mine.
Indeed. Safely back home.
Thank you.
All right now. So stay with us, please. We'll take a break, and then we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
TVC Communications, Nigeria's leading independent broadcast company, has been officially designated as a great place to work. Over the past 3 years, we have transformed our workplace into one which is respectful, caring, rewarding, and provides great benefits to all our 500 employees. We thank our team for giving us the chance to show that partnership between employer and employee really works. TVC Communications, officially designated as a great place to work. Now, the only broadcasting and media company, not just in Nigeria, but throughout continental Africa, to be fully certified. TVC Communications, a great Nigerian company, a great Nigerian place to work.
Voted as the best TV station of the year. TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. Without the news from every perspective. Covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Jackson, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV station of the year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back. My guest this time is Adewale Adeoye. Adewale is Executive Director, Journalist for the Democratic Rights, and it's been quite a while, but thank you very much for coming on the program. You know, I wanted to talk about the horrible news from the weekend, from Saturday, and talking about the killings of 110 people by the final count in the northeast of Nigeria, Maiduguri, to be Borno State, to be precise. Now, it first of all came out, and it was thought that it was horrendous when the number was 43. But as we speak now, it's at least 110, and people have seen those pictures. So that's a tragedy in its own right. Most of these were not fighters, and by the methodology and with the evidence on the ground, the people themselves that are involved, that is the communities, they say this, they're pointing at Boko Haram, that Boko Haram is responsible for all of this. Now, we all know the government's attitude to this whole idea of government, of Boko Haram, and their professed strength. Government has continually said to us that Boko Haram is on the way out. It's on the back foot. What you see of Boko Haram is dying throws. They hit soft targets. In short, Boko Haram almost is like you don't need to worry about them anymore. Now government has to face up to this, doesn't it? What does all of this say to you as to the true state of our security in the Northeast?
I think it's very unfortunate that we waited for this massacre to take place before we admit that Boko Haram remains a major challenge to national security. And I'm glad the governor was able to admit that the Boko Haram is still having dominion in many local governments in Borno State. And don't forget, where this massacre was committed is just some few kilometers from Maiduguri. There are 27 local governments in Borno State. So if this could take place almost, outskirts of Maiduguri, then you can be sure that, we'll be deceiving ourselves if we say that Boko Haram is dead. And the manner of operation, they came on bike, which must have taken them some hours to drive to that place. And then killing people, not through poisonous gas, not through bombs, but slaughtering them one after the other in a very savage manner. We also have taken some hours to achieve 110 people. And then kidnapping the women, taking them away, not in a tropical forest, in a desert, and then taking them away will have taken some time.
The brazenness of
and
it,
this
the time
did not
that they
take
had
place
to
in the
operate.
night. Boko Haram used to attack midnight, at dawn. This took place in daylight, broad daylight.
And there is an army formation
very close to that place.
Very
and
close
they
to that place.
Left. It must have taken them hours. And when they left that place, I mean, they didn't. They would have retreated into a particular spot. Not one, not two, not probably about 20, 30 of them. They will have retreated into a particular spot. That means they have a hideout. So I now wonder that what are we really doing? And from what we have read, there was intelligence report that they were about to carry out this attack some hours before this savage attack took place. So I'm really worried. I think we have to go beyond mere issue of condolence messages. We have to realize that we have a very big challenge on our hands, and that Boko Haram is real, and that the government's efforts, from what we have seen now, it has not been effective. So we really need to come out and do something different from what we have been doing for the past 11 years that has failed to tame Boko Haram.
And unfortunately, what you've just said, what you ended up with, that we need to do something different, it doesn't look like that's on the cards at all, in the sense that, look, we've used all sorts of analogies. We've used football analogy of tired legs. We need to change some of the players. The president seems dead set against the service chiefs being changed. Where does this leave us? Because the president must have his reason for wanting to maintain his current security team, but it's not working.
Yeah, it's not. It's not working.
It's not working for us. So what are the options left? Because again, when you hear the conversation, there are those who have said that changing the service chiefs is not the same as saying that immediately this will result in improved an improved situation. So what's your sense of what the options are for government now?
Well, I think even in peacetime, people change service chiefs in order to re-energize the system, in order to throw challenges to new human resource persons to see how they can do things differently, even in peacetime. And I think in the history of this country, we've had the longest, they have spent the longest time in terms of almost 6 years now they have been there. So I think even if the government refuses to change them, there should be a kind of conscientious objection. Their conscience to worry them. That look, I've been here for 4 years, 5 years, and nothing is happening. That even if the government is not trying to change me, I think I have to step aside. But I think, though that doesn't hardly happen in this part of the world.
I don't think military people have the option of
it's quite
resigning.
Unfortunate. For me, I think it is time for the president to change the service chiefs. There should be a major reorganization so that we can bring in new people and then see what they have tried their best, in the context of the challenge. So we can't blame them. We can't say they have done nothing. But now that these things are happening almost on a weekly basis, I think it is time to say, look, take the back seat. Don't forget that the chief of army staff is from Borno State. The National Security Advisor is from Borno State. One of the most powerful individuals in this government, Baba Gana Kingibe, is from Borno State. So this is their home, this is their dominion, and this kind of thing is happening there. So I think for me, well, it is time. We just have to change the service chiefs and let us bring in people. And then new ideas, new structure, new intelligence mechanism to see probably that we are going to see a new response in terms of dealing with Boko Haram.
Because losing 110 people in these circumstances, in any circumstance, but particularly in this circumstance, is catastrophic. Now, some of the ideas I have heard is that vigilante groups, local vigilante groups should be, further should be strengthened, and this might help. But I don't know. I don't know how well trained they are. And first of all, the ones that exist, they're not that well trained, and I doubt that they have equipment. So what do you think of that suggestion that it might make a difference if local vigilante groups, because the army, even though it is as close as it was to this attack theater, couldn't come in to stem it? Maybe groups like I'm suggesting now might have made a difference. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the local vigilante groups, they are supposed to be backup. It should be a temporary mayor. In other crimes, they usually provide, local communities are supposed to provide intelligence, that the soldiers will work on. There's no way you can compare local vigilante with somebody who has attended NDA for 5 years. People have gone to training in India, in the US, who have attended military schools. So there's no way you can train vigilante to that level within the very short time. So the best they can do is to provide credible intelligence that should be useful to the military and the Air Force, so that they can use this intelligence to nip in the bud before the Boko Haram carries out its activities.
But you did say that you have word that there was intelligence that the attack was going to happen. Yet, for some reason. But let me not keep Mazi Okorafor waiting. I beg your pardon, Mazi Okorafor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. You're a good one, our guest in the studio.
Good morning.
The situation report now in that Meduguri massacre over the weekend is not healthy. Now you ask yourself, when American men were just trapped, what happened? I think that Trump sent people there to that from the same Borno state. Within 48 hours, those people were restored. Now you ask yourself, what do we do? Because what we need now are solutions. Every day, every month, it's not monthly. You see on your screen, Air Force have acquired jets, either helicopter or fighter jets or bomber jets. Now, what is the Air Force people doing on that? Because if there was a sort of intelligence report on this issue, is it not the job of the drone? Does it match the drone they have been showing us, the military have been showing us on the screen that they are acquired drones? What is the drone doing? Because fighting terrorism this time around is no longer analog, it's digital. If the security have been using that the drone, which have been showing us on the screen about fire, all these issues will not happen.
Okay.
You use machine to come and kill over 100 and something people, and you were coming down with a knife and the knife, but you must carry a bag, carry all those. Now, does it mean that we don't have equipment that will do that? Yeah, they could have the resources. What does it take us?
Okay, Mazi, thank you very much. I've got to interrupt you there just because of time. I'm so sorry, but thank you very much for contributing. Now, he's making the point that how modern is our intelligence operations? Because analog is hardly going to be useful in a digital age.
He has made very brilliant submissions. If you have drone, you fly the drones, you get your data, you know where these people are located.
We have drones is the problem.
So that is the problem. What is happening with area surveillance? That even when this attack was taking place, there was no response. Yes. Even after they had left, there was no response. Coming to slaughter people, they must have left their DNA behind. So if you have data within 72 hours, you will get the names of those that are responsible for the massacre. Like what happened in the case of 9/11. And 2,077 people died. But they were able to identify those that carry out the atrocity within the shortest time. But now we don't know, we don't have the names, the background of those who committed this crime. So they can do it again.
Okay.
It's a matter of time.
One moment, please. Good morning, Mr. George in Ikeja.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning.
I greet Mr. Adey as well.
Thank you.
Uncle Yori, I want to solidly agree with Mr. Adey that there is need to not only change strategy in this war, but also change the key operators. We cannot be doing the same thing all the time and expect different results. If somebody has been tested for years and he appears to have exhausted his line of strategy, why don't you try another person? Is it a law that is only one set of strategies that must fight this war? They tried their best at the beginning, but it appears their best is not good enough. The government should be dynamic. Use strategies that suit situations to solve problems.
Okay.
I'm very, very sad at the number of people these people just went to kill. At the time they were saying IDPs should go back to their villages, we were asking what is the safety guard for them, and when they return home, they will be able to live a normal life. Now they've gone to farms, and there's insecurity in farms, and see what is happening. The government should please do something and be dynamic. People are dying.
Thank you very much, Mr. George, for calling in. And these people, we hear that this is the harvest season. Yes. And so these people actually traveled from as far away as Sokoto, to this venue only to be slaughtered. And it's really almost like in the backyard of a military formation where this whole slaughter happened. Quite frankly, government has to just react to this, because this speaks volumes about whatever the strategy is. It clearly isn't working, and as Mr. George said in there is a need to change whatever that strategy is. Yeah. Because we're going to hear the same thing. The president is going to say he's shocked, he's going to send condolences, he's going to, we're all going to be believed, but it's scary on the larger public if Boko Haram seems to be able to run rings around, quite frankly, the military in Nigeria. We've heard it ad nauseum that, it's a different kind of fighting force. Those ones are guerrillas, these ones are classically trained. But the point is, people are dying.
And military are also trained on how to fight guerrilla warfare. It's part of their manual. So we anticipate that there could be guerrilla movement, in any country. So it's not an excuse to say that because they are guerrilla, warriors, then we cannot defeat them.
Okay, Daniel in Abuja. Good morning, sir.
Morning. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I want to make a contribution with
Sure.
this hot topic.
Go ahead, please.
We should commend Mr. President so far for their record. This supply so many areas. But what I think.
Daniel, there seems to be a problem with the line, but I did hear you say we should commend Mr. President so far. Are you still with me, Daniel?
Yes, we don't need to run him down or the security chiefs. It's a very serious issue we have at hand. These guys are having support from ISIS. we don't need to understand what is going on in Northeast. If not, it will overrun the country. It should be a security summit where these issues will be properly tabled. Support. Drones are very important at this point to make sure that we have this country. If not, they will overrun this country.
No.
Yeah, it's just what they have in the name of religion, cutting people down, and things. So we don't need to blame anybody at this point. We don't need to run anybody down. All must be on the
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. The line was poor, but I do believe you said briefly, one, we need to be commending Mr. President that they have external assistance and that there should be a security summit. I hope I got that part of it right.
Yes. And that is collective responsibility, all of us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so I think Daniel is taking exception to criticisms of what looks like the inaction of Mr. President on these matters.
Well, it's not criticism, because we should not take every view as running down the government. What is happening that people are worried that they can no longer go to farms, and that some people have the legal responsibility, to ensure they provide security. It's not me, it's not you. There are people that are there who are paid from the taxpayers' money, who are housed by the taxpayers' money. So, and the Constitution says they must be responsible for the defense of the country and the protection of individuals.
Exactly.
So these people are occupying these positions, and by law, they are supposed to provide security for all of us. So that's why we are holding them responsible.
And so something like this happens,
it's
we're going to knock on that particular door.
But about, trying to do things right in a way that all of us will be safe.
Our last caller, Bayo in Ikeja. Good morning, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Yes, this is it here. I want people to understand something. We've been talking about this Boko Haram thing for a long time, but the truth of the matter is that I've actually interviewed soldiers in the past. I personally have lost my cousin in Boko Haram fight. He was a soldier. And these soldiers have told me that defeating Boko Haram is an issue. They can actually cross Boko Haram under 24 hours. But the issue is that there's a lot of conspiracy within the military. That is what's happening. They even told me that there are times that in the midnight, they will arrest some Boko Haram soldiers. In the midnight, Supreme officers will come and tell them to release these same men. There are times that they want to go and attack Boko Haram, and they will just get into ambush, and they cause their cells within the military. That's what is happening. Let us tell ourselves the truth. There's no conspiracy in the military. That's one of these issues. So please, sir, let us say the truth. You don't think this military cannot work. There's conspiracy. People are benefiting from that. We're in this dilemma. I just hope that God will save us, Nigeria, from this issue one day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Bayo. Now, I don't have all the time I'd like, but I don't. You heard him, and I did say he was our last caller, and we've completely run out of time. But he's making a point that we've also had reason to discuss in the past.
It's absolutely correct. Most of the time, Boko Haram gets information before they are attacked.
Yes.
So obviously, there are internal collaborators, maybe very few bad eggs.
Yes.
And you have bad eggs in every institution. So part of the things the military should do is to identify these bad eggs, fish them out, so that they will not destroy the good intention of the Nigerian military.
Again, as I said, we don't have the time. And we also know that there's this amnesty for Boko Haram, for reform Boko Haram. We don't know how well that is working, but let me not contradict myself. We don't have the time. I want to thank you very much, Adewale Adeoye,
thank you very much.
Executive Director, journalist for Democratic Rights. And really, condolences to all those families, 110 so far. It's very, very painful. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we get up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.